Aloha, everyone. Welcome to Island Health VIP. My name is Josette Sullins, and I am here with my co-host, Island Health VIP Clinical Director, Jeff Gishkin. We look forward to sharing your lunch hour today, and we are hoping to bring awareness, health tips, island health topics. We always have a special guest, our highlighted island favorites, the business of the day, and hopefully a little bit of humor. Today's guest is Tina Boteilho. She is a licensed marriage family therapist, and she'll be joining us about 15 after the hour. So, Jeff, we're finally back from Honolulu. That was a fantastic time. We went over to Honolulu for our annual HSAC meeting. And HSAC stands for Hawaiian Substance Abuse Coalition. What did you think about that, Jeff?
Aloha all. It was a wonderful time. We met up with most of the CEOs and agency owners of mental health and substance use services here in Hawaii on all islands. We shared information. It was quite an enlightening trip. It was the first meeting they had since COVID. Otherwise, it's been on Zoom, so everyone was seeing each other for the first time in years.
It was so fantastic. It was located at the Pacific Club. I don't know if you know where that is in Honolulu, but it is a private club, and I'm going to tell you, we are definitely going to have to join that club. The food is absolutely fantastic. They have artwork there like nothing I've seen before. I mean, it is Hawaiian, it's gorgeous, and it's worth, going over and seeing it. But you have to either be a guest or be invited. One of the things I wanted to mention is one of our board members, Iman, who owns VIP Transportation here in Maui, as well as in Honolulu. He sponsored the entire event, which was so incredibly nice of him. We were all in awe and shock to be treated like royalty, and much deserved with this group of people that do so much work and have so much love in our community. Imund not only funded the event, he also went out and did he got Turtle Bay, was it, Jeff, to go ahead and donate a $2,000 stay. And what was really fun, I thought, was how they did the raffle is we all picked a card from a card deck. And so Jeff almost won. Jeff, do you want to tell us about that?
Just short. It was the 7 of hearts, and I had the 6. But, Josette, I was there early, and Iman not only sponsored the event, but he was there personally setting it up, bringing in centerpieces, putting those raffle prizes out. So he was quite busy.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to next year's event. I think we should help him out a little bit because that was quite the expense that he went through. But it was fantastic. In case if you don't know what HSAC does, we all meet, we look at the laws, we help go down to the legislature and make a difference, have our voice heard. We meet together, as a collaborative and community, which is most important. And this event was so needed because just hearing everyone's trials and barriers and triumphs, and you just knew you weren't alone. So it was a fantastic time, and one that I think Mr. Iman, I don't know what his last name is, deserves a round of applause. So yay! Jeff, you are going to tell us a little bit of island news. So it's up to you.
Thank you, Josette. Well, some upcoming events is what I'd like to talk about. Let me first say last Saturday was the charity walk from the Hospitality Association. There was about 1,600 walkers, and Maui, for the 15th year in a row, is the highest fundraiser with $1.2 million. So Little Maui, out of all the islands, raises the most fund and has been number one in fundraising for 15 years.
That is fantastic. I thought when you were telling me the news on that it was Honolulu, because we were staying down in Waikiki and there was quite a crowd there. So that is really fantastic. Do we know where the walk started in Maui and where it ended?
I believe it was at the War Memorial, and it goes around in a circle for, I believe, 2.5 miles. And of course, during those times, the Hotel Association, the Hospitality Association, has well-known chefs that you can taste their food for the donation. So that's what most people like to go there for, is to walk and eat at the same time. So it's not really a event for exercise as much as it is for dining.
So is this kind of like walking and chewing gum? I think I might trip.
Chewing better things than gum.
Yes, absolutely. And is this an annual event, and how many years has it been going on, do you know?
It has been 15 years.
Wow. Congratulations, Maui. That's great work. What else do you have on there, Jeff?
Well, we have the upcoming Hawaii Catholic Foundation with Maria Lana Church, I believe it's called. The Spiritual and Wellness Fair coming up on May 18th at the Royal Lahaina Resort from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. There will be spiritual support by Catholic priests with prayer ceremonies, prayer sessions. There'll be health resources, mental health and physical health agencies will be represented. There'll be door prizes. There'll be giveaways. There'll be keiki activities. And the first 500 participants who show up get a gift card donated by the Catholic Foundation.
That's fantastic. And we're also going to be there. So Island Health VIP will be hosting a booth. And, you know, we'll definitely be doing a giveaway as well. This is for all the fire victims. And so a lot of love and support there is going to be going on. Is it also open to the public, Jeff?
Yes, it is totally open to the public, but they are actually going to send text and emails to the fire victims that are still staying at the hotels to invite them personally to attend. So there will be activities and information for fire victims.
Fantastic. Do you have any other updates before we move on?
Well, I believe it's pretty important. Tomorrow, Tuesday, the hospitality hiring event at the Western Kaanapali from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So there'll be job offers there. There'll be interviews from different visitor businesses. They will be interviewing you right there on the spot, and they'll also be making offers for hiring. So if you're looking for a job, you'd like to get into the hospitality industry, head over to the Western Kaanapali tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 1.
Just out of curiosity, are they hiring now because we are going into the slow season, or are they looking for fall? I mean, any idea on that?
No, they're hiring right now. There's a shortage of workers, but there's also visitors. So the visitors have been down this year. They're still down from the past years, but it's the highest level of visitors since the fires. So there was 206,000 visitors in this year, but that's down 25% from last year. And last year there was 276,000 visitors, but that's down 24% from March of 2019 prior to COVID. So Maui is still suffering visitor losses in the hospitality industry since COVID. So it's been 4 years, but things are starting to increase. It is going up. And they would like to hire staff, and there's a shortage of qualified staff. Of course, we know many people have left the island. Many people were out of work at the time of the fires because of the fires, but things are rebounding.
Fantastic. We look forward to that. Well, if you're just now tuning in, we want to welcome you to Island Health VIP. My name is Josette Sullins, and I am here with my co-host at Island Health VIP Clinical Director, Jeff Gishkin. We also have our guest coming up. Her name is Tina Boteilho. She is a licensed marriage family therapist, which is much needed here on the island. I hear that she has an independent practice as well as works at some of the agencies around. Tina, are you with us?
Yeah. Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Welcome, Tina. We are
Welcome.
excited.
Thank you. Thank you for the offer.
So, Tina, I know that you have your own private practice, and you also
Yes.
work for several other agencies, as well
Yes.
as being on the board of some organizations. And I certainly have heard that you won a national award last year. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us more about yourself?
Sure. My name is Tina Boteilho. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here on the Maui Island, Tri-Island County, so always include Molokai and Lanai. I've been working on Maui. I'm a born and raised Maui girl. I've been working on Maui, Molokai and Lanai for the last 23 years, primarily in social services. But the last probably over a decade has been dedicated primarily to serious and persistent mental illness, people who have gone into crisis, and then for the last 8 or almost 9 months now, just dedicated to the survivors of the Maui wildfires.
That is so fantastic, Tina. I'm happy to hear you say that. How is it going out there? Are people reaching out and wanting help, or is it, slow going? We hear all kinds of different things going on. So what is your perspective?
Well, we've been boots on the ground since August 9th. I mean, we were in the burn zone immediately after the fire in Lahaina. My ohana is from Olinda, so that's kind of where we started. We started getting phone calls at 4 in the morning, that Olinda was on fire right above my family's properties. And then we saw Kihei, it's spreading down to Kihei, and then out in the distance we saw Lahaina. So, it hits home when you see, your entire life pretty much,
Literally go up in flames, right?
Yeah. And I spent my first couple of years of life out in Lahaina. My grandparents worked for the Sheraton out there, and so so many memories on Front Street throughout my life. Even as an adult, I mean, we were out there the weekend before the fires, and my cousins had said, well, maybe we should go down Front Street, and I said, well, it's always going to be there. You can come on the next trip not knowing that this would happen. So many stories like that, right?
Tina, I don't want to interrupt, but I know exactly what you're saying.
We were all these moments. And,
yes.
Yeah.
We were so excited because, I had never been to Lanai and Lahaina. Geez, I'm thinking about you working at Lanai and going, oh my gosh, there's hardly any people over there. But we'll get to that later. But in Lahaina, we were able to take our clinical director out, for his birthday. And then we had Dr. Navarro, which is, that goes between, here in Phoenix as well as I do. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be our annual event. And I know how devastating that is to us. So just to hear, I'm so sorry that you had to, endure all of that. How do you take care of yourself?
Well, I think, the biggest thing, right, like growing up here, we talk about our kuleana, right, like our responsibility. And as local people and people, of this land, and the land is a part of us, like, we do have a lot of kuleana, and I was just talking about that the other day, not just to ourselves, but to our community, to our ohana, to our children, the future. And so I think a lot of it is trying to find that balance, where, you're working with your people and it feels so good to be supportive and to be in those spaces, but also understanding like that does stress your mind, it stresses your body, it stresses your spirit. So a lot of it is finding those little moments, even if it's like 5, 10, 15 minutes to take a break from what you're doing, take your shoes or your slippers off and just reconnect with the land, reconnect with fresh air, just to be in those spaces. And I think that, seeing the island so devastated, it was hard. And, you don't realize how important fresh air is until you have a K100 mask on. You don't understand how important the ocean is until you can't get in that ocean. So for me, it was definitely an eye-opener around self-care and making sure that we have those spaces to be able to reconnect with the land and the ocean and fresh air and, really getting back to that health and wealth, because, when we don't have that, we have nothing.
Absolutely. I wanted to let you know, even like during, everything tragic that we have all gone through and, all the residents here, I don't have the privilege of living here on Maui, but I travel often. And this is still the most healing place I think I have ever been. The aloha is unbelievable. Every time I step off the plane, I just, you can feel it. There's just this energy and, hearing you talk and about the responsibility and, taking care of your community and your families and all of that. It really is in the air, everywhere around us. So, I just have chills, hearing, what you're talking about. And probably we should air this not just in Sedona. We're also going to be recorded in Sedona on Saturday, so people can listen in there. But with vicarious trauma, and for those of you that don't know what vicarious trauma is, it's just even knowing about it, even being around it affects us. Just like even coming to Maui, into the healing atmosphere, affects us. So please continue on. You're amazing.
Well, Tina,
Yeah.
I know we attend the Maui Counselor Hui together on Zoom, run by the Office of
definitely.
Wellness and Resilience from the governor. But there's all kinds of different stories. So how do you think the recovery is going? What do the people need? Especially now that it's Mental Health Awareness Month. So any tips?
Right. Yeah. Jeff, I want to thank you, because I know that, there's been so many times that you've shown up in the field with us, gotten dirty in the trenches with us too.
Thank you, Tina.
I think
I'm part
biggest,
of, I live here. So, yes.
Yeah, I think the biggest calling is what we've been working with the governor's office on, is to, just get as much help as we can. We were really struggling in COVID. We had so many wonderful and talented practitioners leave because telehealth, it was too difficult to maintain office space with COVID. And since, 2020, our numbers of mental health professionals have dwindled, and we had so many people also burn out and leave the field. And so what we need those people to come back. We need those people to reconnect with private practices, with agencies, with programs that are just launching, because we need their wealth of knowledge. We need their knowledge around what does heal and being
so
culturally
true, Tina,
competent.
What do you think is needed from?
I want to add to that.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to interrupt Jeff and you for just a moment, because I know he's going to change the subject. And what you're saying is that's exactly what we're doing. With Island Health, we want to bring. Okay, let me start back from the beginning. So, when we started to come over here, the very first thing that we wanted to do was bring licensed clinicians so they also could heal. This was way before the fires, because when I stepped foot on Maui, I was like, oh my gosh, what a breath of fresh air. I can actually realize, the war zone that we're all in when we work with trauma on a daily basis, when we work with substance use, when we work with social determinants of health and homelessness or unsheltered or, whatever we want to call it, it's tragic. And so when we stepped on the island, we went straight to Mayor Bisson's office and said, hey, we want to be a resource. We do not want to come over here and butt into something that you're already doing well. How can we help out? And he said, hey, go to Aloha House, talk with Judd Cunningham, and, whatever Judd wants or needs, do that. And this was way before the fires. And so that's what we did, and we found out that you have no clinicians or limited, and you need that talent. And so on the mainland, we need to have some healing. And so we are going to be bringing counselors over for training, here on Maui. And then they can volunteer, they can help out. Not only would we be doing that, we're also going to be educating, the counselors here with some of the talent that we have or some of the talent that comes over that wants to participate. So you just really validated our business model, and I'm so sorry, Jeff, for interrupting you. I just really
Good comments, Josette.
was like, oh my gosh, Tina, thank you so much. And so,
Yeah.
you know that's not easy to do, right? It is.
Oh, I know. I hear you.
Yeah. So
definitely not easy.
No. So you gave us wind under our sail. And so we'll definitely, continue with that process. But please, Jeff, go with your comment, and I am so sorry for being so controlling.
Oh, no. I wanted to add, Josette, and interesting for our listeners and you, Tina, we don't send people over from the mainland. We have cultural training that we give to our clinicians before they come over. We have local people, which, Tina, you could be one of, training people by Zoom and other means. We have a whole Hawaiian room set up on our 17th floor business in Phoenix, which is a private membership and conference center. But we have a Hawaiian room where we do training on local culture. So that's important. We're not just people coming in from the mainland and taking over. As you know, that's happened too much, Tina.
Yeah, I think, I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff. The biggest challenge I think that we've had is really the populations that kind of aren't the loudest, right, but have the most amount of need. So
yes,
when you mentioned, what are people needing out there, it's really these vulnerable populations, right? So the elderly, right, the kupuna, the keiki, the young people, the children, adolescents, people with disabilities, people with, English as second language, right? Like, we are constantly out there hammering for interpreters, just for even simple documents. Hey, I was just at a blessing last week, Tuesday, where, a director came up to me and said, hey, do you know anyone that can interpret? It's just 8 pages. And she was looking for multiple languages. So, things like that also, it's creating a system where there is no system at times.
right.
So it's easy to say, we're out there and we're providing all these services, but there's so many people out there. First of all, it's just culturally kind of shame almost. So you always got to come from that place of, growing up here, we were really just kind of hammered since little kid time around like guilt and shame, right? So understanding that mental health still has a lot of stigmas around it with the local cultures. So a lot of it, I'm so glad that, a lot of the local and Hawaiian practitioners, started to talk about talk story, right? And they call it kuka kuka. So just having people come and talk story and share experiences and kind of doing away with the stigma of mental health. And if people arise where we see that they need a next level of care, or they're really stuck in the trauma responses, we have therapists out there that can kind of pull them aside and say, hey, would you like to meet with me privately, or we can get a little bit more in depth, for you and your family or your children. So I think the biggest need out there that has continued from day one has been those targeted populations, right? The populations that are not the loudest. And, one of the populations that, is really near and dear to my heart are all the emergency responders.
Absolutely.
A lot of them have to come across as, Superman or Superwoman at times. And, I know them privately. I know some of them are my family members. Some of them are kids I grew up with in this community. And they'll be the first to get everyone else help. But not come in, for themselves. And you want to talk about vicarious trauma.
Right.
A lot of them, were escaping the fires themselves while trying to lead other people away from it also. So
yes, many first responders had their own houses burned down. I believe there's 25 of them, as I remember.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not always so easy to receive. for any of us, and especially if you have grown up and you're taught to give and to help. And so it is such it's really a tool to learn. And, that's all it is. And we can practice receiving on a daily basis. And, that might be something that we should share on the show, Jeff. I always gave as well. And so it's not always easy to be that vulnerable and let go and, allow. I wanted to kind of backtrack for just a moment. When you were talking about the different language barriers, are we able to use AI out here, or maybe one of those Babbles, or nowadays there's so many translation tools available. Do you think that that could possibly help or be a solution?
I think in some avenues, with some practitioners, it could be helpful. I think that, more so where we're seeing the need is around, people that are just in the community, right? Like trying to reach out, and it being a barrier, not just culturally, right? But then also that inability to communicate. And so, we've reached out to, different people in our community that speak Spanish, or, the different languages of the Philippines, or, different languages of Micronesia, just to be able to help those families feel more at ease. So when they're sharing, we can get the true gist of what their experiences are, not their interpretation into our language, which can shift a lot of times, because it brings them into their brain where they have to think of how to translate into English, which really robs, I think, all of us from the experience of some of them, because so much is put into trying to interpret versus just having their experiences.
I totally understand you, and I'm so happy that I asked that question. In Phoenix, I get to do some of the IOP classes over there as a BHT, and some of the most rewarding times are when we have interpreters. And, it just to hear somebody else's perspective, to, for the whole group to understand, we're all in this together, is so healing, and it's a special space. So we really all collectively need to work on the interpreter thing, especially, I was on one of the Red Cross meetings, I don't know, a few months ago or a few weeks ago. I lose track of time. And, the one thing that stood out to me, not so much here in Maui, but that we are going to have disasters continuously happening because of global warming. And because of this, the areas that are being, attacked or under, more fires, more flooding, more, all of the other, they're filled with vulnerable people. And you really targeted that. They need the most help and the most care, even if there's not a disaster. Please, Jeff, go ahead.
Well, look what's happening this week in Texas, Josette, which is your home state. Tornadoes and floods at the same time. Fires, just a larger fire than Maui just a month or two ago. So the environment is changing, and more disasters are happening, and we'll need more and more responders.
It is so true. I'm excited I do have my sister here, staying with me. But it was crazy. Over 1 million acres burnt in my little small Texas panhandle area. Thank goodness it didn't devastate very many lives, but the land and the livestock and the nature and animals, it was horrendous on. And while we were in I think we were in Honolulu, gosh, the time just flies here. I know everyone says we're on island time, but it seems like it goes too fast for me. But I saw my father and stepbrother and stepmom were celebrities on the news, unfortunately not for anything good other than being rescued. Their house was going underwater, and they had to have the Patriots and whoever, I can't remember if it was National Guard, come out and put them in a boat and carry them away. And so it just doesn't seem, it seems surreal, Tina, what all we are going through right now on the planet.
Yeah, and I was able to meet, just through the last several months, several different experts in global warming who actually travel the world. I met a guy about a week and a half ago who had just came back from the Marshall Islands, and I met a lady when we were on Koho'olawe a few weeks ago, and she was going to Washington D.C. to report on her findings here in Hawaii. And it was really interesting because she actually, we were kind of talking about resiliency in natural disasters. And she was interesting because she said, Tina, you have children. Make sure that when you're raising them, you raise them to be resilient because it's just going to get worse. And that kind of broke my heart in a minute, because I was like, talking with my mom and, some of the elders in our community, and they'll tell you they've never experienced these many natural disasters. And so, it's really heartbreaking to know that, like, we are going to be preparing and we need to prepare, our children and the next generations for disasters and how to be resilient and how to show up and how to be safe and, have things that, we kind of took for granted learning growing up, like fishing and farming and things like that. It's going to become more and more important.
I have chills, and it makes me almost want to cry and cringe, just along with everybody hearing that. But it is 100% true. And, just we have to work on our environment and work on our communities and our families. I think it can bridge us all together, so we can be closer and figure this out. But, you're right. We're going to have to do that. And that's one of the reasons, not so much from what we just said, but why we want to have this talk show and, meet and do all of this is to educate everyone, keep everybody, in the know on what is actually going on and what you can do about it and how you can help or how you can receive help. And, we all go through different times that we can give, and then we go through times we just can't. And I know when we're going to talk in a little bit, and I might as well just even say this, when my mother passed in 2020, we have all kinds of fantastic tools and, therapy and just providers and everybody else that, really make a huge difference. But when you're going through loss and tragedy and all of that, it is really difficult to pick yourself up and to give to others. And, you just have to know that is the time that you have to receive. And we all have those times, going back to that receiving piece. And, I miss my mother daily, but the receiving part of community and connecting and allowing and receiving, it's really powerful. And, I wish I didn't have to lose my mom to be vulnerable enough to have to go through it. But there was no way I could do anything but. So hopefully, others will hear this, radio station and reach out. And like you, hearing this and reach out to help.
Yeah, and I think, one of the beautiful things that came out of all of this, and even some of the providers that flew in, even if it was just for a week to help us clean up or, a few weeks to help us figure out how to create a barrier around, the toxins and stuff, was everyone complimented how, they had been in natural disasters or they had been, to places where everything was just devastated, and they had never seen a community like ours. And they had never seen, a community wrap around itself to ensure that everyone was being taken care of. And so that was, for us, it was a beautiful thing to hear that we had not lost that part of our culture, because so much of that, so much of our culture has become westernized. And so to be able to hear that from, thousands of providers showed up, whether it was military, private, government, or, personal people just showing up wanting to help. every single person that came and helped and left actually said that they got more out of coming here than they were able to give. So when you talk about receiving, that was one of the beautiful things, that really stuck with me, is how beautiful our community is.
Even visitors can help, even now. So when you come over to Maui as a tourist, you can volunteer to help with various activities. And so there are many websites you can check for that. So might as well have a good, positive vacation experience and help the local community.
That's so true. Tina, I wanted to also comment on what you said, because you do feel the aloha here. You do feel the community and the family. And, my parents had gone through a divorce, and one of the things that I did for 17 years is I had a nonprofit. It was 100%, no staff. We raised money to give out. No one received a salary. It was all board ran, and I know how difficult that would be to have a board doing everything. But I wanted to preserve the family on mainland because I could see it breaking. I saw what happened to our family with divorce and latchkey kids and, all the other different things. And so over the years, we ended up, with a technique that we use that helps a lot of people, but that's not what this is about. We ended up having different integrative clinics. And, we have everybody. We have a huge inclusive program. We work with the unsheltered. We work with Department of Corrections. We work with indigenous populations, substance use, grief, trauma. It's a beautiful collective group. But what I have noticed is exactly what you just said. It's the indigenous families that stay together. Like, we don't have as hard of a time, helping repair, helping give the tools, helping rehab, helping support the indigenous families, because they do have natural supports. They do have their land that they're connected to. Many will say, I'm not homeless. I'm just unsheltered right now. My land is my home, my family. We are here. We're just going through, some issues at the time. And we've lost that, on most of the mainland. And, it's something that we all have to fight to keep. And, I just kudos, to Maui and everyone for, continuing to be strong and, keeping family together. I'll never forget one of Jeff's dear friends, and he can talk about her possibly, Naomi. I said, well, during the fires, I'm like, are all these children, are they missing? She goes, do you honestly think that somebody on Hawaii would sleep if we had our children out there missing? She's like, no, we are accounted for. We pull together as a community, and none of us rest until we are all taken care of. And that will always stick with me. So I just love, hearing you say that.
There were a lot of strange conspiracy theories at the time, right, Tina?
Oh my gosh, they're still happening. Yeah. So I just ask people to be respectful. I'm like, listen, whatever you believe is what you believe, but please be respectful that people are still unhoused and people are still, away from their families.
Yes.
So just be respectful, like that's not your experience. And, usually that'll kind of shut people down, that want to share their blue roof or whatever the latest thing is.
Right. Well, speaking of, next week is Mother's Day, and you are, the one to really talk with since you're a licensed family and marriage counselor.
And I think you're a new mother also.
Yeah.
Oh, you are?
A little 2-month-old.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for even coming on. You must be really busy with your little baby.
Yeah.
So can you, one of now that I have you on here, and I'm not trying to let go of my part of the job here on the radio show, but, Mother's Day is not always cracked up what it, we all want it to be. There's lots of high
Right.
expectations.
Yeah.
People get stressed out. Oh, some people are like, hey, I can't even buy my mother a gift. Can you give any suggestions or tips along those lines, so people realize that they don't have to stress so much, or it doesn't have to be about buying a gift?
I think the biggest thing for all moms, my oldest is 9, and the biggest thing just for any mom is to show up. We put so much hopes and dreams into our children. We want them to be happy and to be healthy and to have the greatest experiences in life. And as they grow up and they grow older, we just honestly we just want that quality time. Um, so many moms look back and they think, "Oh, I missed out on this and I missed out on that." And whether you're 2 months old or you're 80 years old, you're always going to be someone's child.
Mm.
And I think that to just show up for any mother. Show up for the sister that has children who is struggling, or show up for the neighbor that maybe is a single mom and she's struggling with her children. Like, just do acts of kindness for any mother, for Mother's Day. It doesn't necessarily have to be your own mom, but just honoring the fact that, your health as a child is really, really reflective of your mother's health. And so if we're not taking care of our mothers, right, and we're not helping and we're not supporting them and we're not encouraging them, our future generations are going to struggle because they're a reflection of our moms. So I always tell people, not everyone has maybe the greatest relationship with their moms, or, maybe you lost your mom along the way, but it doesn't mean that you can't show up for yourself if you're a mom, or you can't show up and, even if it's just sending a simple text message of, "Hey, sister, I see you, happy Mother's Day. I appreciate, that you're raising good humans." I mean, I cannot tell you how far that little act of kindness goes for a fellow mother. It doesn't have to be your own mom.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that because, again, not so much here, obviously, as we talked about on Maui, but, this radio show will go, out to the mainland as well. And a lot of people, their mothers aren't there, or even if they are there, they aren't there for them, supporting them in the way that they need them to be supported, or, they're lacking that communication and, all of those things. When I think about it, it's perfect timing that we put you on the radio show because here you work with families and marriage and, the whole thing. And as you know, it's not easy. It takes a village and, it takes a lot of work. So I really appreciate you and what you have done. Is there anything that you would like to share or tell us or about you, or how to contact you if they want to get a hold of you? How can we help
Well,
you?
I think the biggest thing, is not just for me, because I've never been about promoting my own business or what I do. I think the biggest thing is going on Psychology Today. And, even just reaching out, they have our bios, some of the therapists, and this is for all over. So whether you're on Maui or, on the East Coast or wherever, if you go on Psychology Today website, you can read the bio of a therapist near you. You can watch a video, that promote themselves, and the ability to just connect with a therapist that you feel that connection to. Because I tell everyone, like, not every therapist is for you, and that's okay. I think it's just finding the therapist that you feel connected to and you feel that, can honor your story and your experience in this life. I think is the most important. And, if you are struggling, call, if you're on Maui, call 211 or 988, and they will link you to a local therapist. Or, if you're out in Lahaina, you can go to the Lahaina Comprehensive Health Center. And, or even your own primary care physician and just say, "Hey, I need a referral." And, every doctor on Maui works with different therapists. And, like I said, it's just finding a person that you feel you can connect to and that can honor your experience.
Well, we really appreciate you, and we'd love to have you on future shows. So, we may be reaching out, and if there's anything we can do to help you, please let us know. Thank you so much, Tina, for joining us.
Mahalo. Aloha, Tina.
Thank you. You take care, guys.
Tina Boteilho, licensed marriage and family therapist here on Maui.
Yes, we're so happy to have her. Well, speaking of tips of the day, we're going to go into mindfulness, and we're not doing a little class here, just telling you it's just all about being aware of ourselves and where we're at in today's fun society, but we can look at where we're at in a non-judgmental way and just make some observations before we go out. How is our breath today? Are we breathing? Are we holding our breath? By paying attention to little things like that, you can learn to find self-regulation by just going, wow, I'm not breathing today. Yesterday I was breathing more, so today I'm breathing less on a, maybe a scale of 1 to 10 on a 4. And so if you are already comfortable with being mindful on how you're breathing, then pay attention to your body. What does your body have to say in a non-judgmental way? And we're not talking about negative self-talk. We're talking about, I'm tired, my hip hurts, I'm hungry, I've overate, things like that, but not judgmental. Like, oh, okay, my body has something to say, and so does our clinical director. Jeff, please.
Josette, it's part of the flight or fight response, as you were talking about breathing, to hold your breath while you're tense. So people don't notice that we don't breathe correctly. But another mindful tip is also just to sit down and pay attention to your breathing, or just sit down and pay attention to your surroundings without any judgment. Sit outside, listen to the birds, listen to the waves, listen to the wind, or just pay attention to what's going on around you. So mindfulness is just a matter of paying attention to you and what's happening to you. So when you're washing the dishes, pay attention to the temperature of the water, the soap bubbles, the light shining on the dishes, not what happened before, not what's going to happen after, and that is mindfulness.
Great. And so that's kind of the very first tip, is to be aware and to know what's going on. And then the more you go ahead and say, all right, well, today between 1 and 10, I've held my breath to, at this level, then you're learning how to breathe and learning your own self-regulation. And, like Jeff said, connecting to nature is a wonderful way to retune your own self. And so we wanted to give that to you before you go to Mother's Day, or before, regardless if you're a mother or a child, just to kind of help you regulate a little bit. So hopefully you can enjoy the day a lot more. One of the things that we haven't done, which is super fun today, is talk about our favorite faves. We don't have a lot of time left, but we're going to go ahead and let Jeff begin, because he has some favorite fave that I have not been to.
Well, we have our favorite faves here on Maui. So today I want to talk about briefly the Kula Forest Reserve. That's one of my favorite places, as it is for many people here. I'm not sure you will realize that was established in 1912, so it's been around a long time. There's 4,931 acres, and it's actually pasture land that was given by the king to people here on Maui, and leased to the people here on Maui for pasture land in the 1800s. By the time the 1920s came along, it was overgrazed. So in the 1930s, during the Depression, the Civilian Conservation Corps, who did a lot of projects here on Maui, that was where the government tried to hire people because of the Depression, replanted. So that forest is replanted. But it's a lovely place, as you all know. I'm sure you all go there. It's a lovely place to get away from the summer heat. lovely place to go to instead of the beach. The wind in the trees is lovely. There is the Poly Springs Recreation Area with one cabin available, but camping. And, of course, great hunting for those who like to hunt. You know, the pigs, goats, and deer. In fact, when I was flying back from Oahu the other day, there was a group of tourists who were coming to hunt. So it's also a financial generator for Maui.
Wow, Jeff, that sounds interesting. Let me ask you a couple questions about that. So if hunting is going on, is it in like a restricted area, so we're not going to walk by and...
Well, I'm not a hunter, but they recommend, you can look on the website, they recommend wearing bright colored clothing if you're walking along the 12 trails that are up there in Kula Forest. So I don't believe it's a restricted area, but I could be wrong. I'm not a hunter.
Okay. Well, interesting. I think we should find out some more on that just to keep you on the loop. But it does sound like a beautiful place, and, you know, I personally love the forest, so I can't wait to check it out. And I wanted to talk about my favorite fave because we ended up, I told you my sister's in town, and so we did a dinner cruise on, and I hope I say this correctly, Ali'i Nui. Did I say that right?
Yes, Ali'i Nui. Very good.
Ali'i Nui. And what I wanted to let you know is they have fantastic food. You know, they're also needing people to go on their cruises. You know, obviously, like Jeff had mentioned earlier, the tourism is up, but, you know, it's still not up enough. And so every chance we get, you know, we definitely try to, you know, help out. This was a fantastic cruise. The food was amazing. And then we promised Logan that we would give him a shout out. Go ahead.
He's the second mate. It's a beautiful sunset cruise, as well as they have snorkeling and whale watches and dolphin watches.
You just have to reserve it. And so, anyway, Logan's about to win some type of reward. I'm not, or award or something. I'm not for sure what it is, but I wanted to do that. And I was very impressed with Captain Bree. She did a fantastic job. It was incredibly windy last night, but it was so beautiful. And that's definitely my favorite fave for the week. And you heard Jeff's already. Well, if you're just now tuning in, every Monday at noon, we have our show. And my name is Josette Sullins, and my co-host is Island VIP Clinical Director, Jeff Gishkin. We're here always trying to educate, empower, enlighten, share a little bit of humor, and have wonderful businesses and guests like we did today. Tina Boteilho is doing a marvelous job in Maui, and it was so fun to hear from her. Jeff, take it away.
Well, this show is brought to you by Island Health, and if you'd like to contact us, our office in Kihei, a lovely spot decorated by our lovely Josette. And we provide mental health counseling, health services, trauma treatment, substance use services. Our phone number to contact us is 808-336-2611, 808-336-2611. Island Health in Kihei.
Fantastic. I have to tell you a little joke here. Jeff was reading off our business cards, and we had them shipped from mainland, and they're so tiny you need a magnifying glass. And so, anyway, there's our humor.